Okay, let's dive into this. What if I told you there's a powerful mental model for solving our most complex, tangled up problems? And it's been kind of hiding in plain sight for centuries. Today, we're going to unpack the Ouroboros framework. It's a pretty radical way of thinking that could seriously change how you approach, well, everything. And this quote from the source material, it just gets right to the heart of it. It basically challenges our most fundamental idea about how thinking even works. That it's a straight line from problem to solution. Instead, this framework says, nope, true intelligence is a loop. It's a cycle where we're constantly feeding our own ideas right back into the system as new information.
So, that brings us to the big question, right? What if this ancient symbol, the Ouroboros, isn't just some old myth? What if it's actually a blueprint for a dynamic, self-correcting, and incredibly powerful way to think? Let's break down how it actually works. All right, so to really get our heads around this framework, we have to first embrace its core metaphor, the thinking serpent. And that means we have to make a fundamental shift away from the simple, straight-line models we're all so used to. This slide just lays it out perfectly. Over on the left, you've got your standard linear thinking. Input, you process it, you get an output. The end. Simple. But on the right, that's the Ouroboros loop. The output, our decision, our new idea, whatever it is, it doesn't just end the process. It becomes the brand new input, the new starting point, which fundamentally changes the reality we started with. Now, this is where the framework gets really interesting and a little mind-bending. It argues that we are never, ever separate from the problems we're trying to solve. The source uses this term, the unified manifold. I know, it sounds super academic, right? But the idea behind it is actually simple and kind of profound. It means you, the thinker, and the problem you're tackling, you're not two separate things. You're both part of one single interconnected system. You are inside the loop, not standing outside looking in. So here's the crucial takeaway from that. Your point of view, your assumptions, your blind spots, they aren't just getting in the way of finding the solution. No, they are active variables inside the problem itself. And recognizing that, that's the real first step to actually solving anything tough. But, just being in a loop isn't enough. We can get stuck just going around and around in circles, right? The whole goal of this framework is to turn a repeating, boring cycle into a breakthrough spiral that's always moving up. First up, we've got the stable cycle. Think of this as a perfect closed circle. This is the loop of habit, of routine, of only looking for evidence that proves you're right. It's basically designed to keep everything the same and push away anything new. We all have these, and man, they can keep us completely stuck. Then you've got the adaptive cycle. This is where most of us live most of the time. This loop is actually open to new data. It lets us learn, practice, and get better at something over time. It's totally essential for growth, but it usually just leads to small, incremental improvements, not those massive leaps forward.
And that brings us to the main event, the transformative spiral. See, this isn't a circle anymore, it's a spiral, always moving upward. It doesn't just adapt to new information, it actively goes looking for chaos, paradox, and contradiction. And it uses all that friction to literally launch itself to a completely new level of understanding.
The framework has this absolutely awesome name for that breakthrough moment, the radiant chomp. How cool is that? It's that exact instant where the snake bites down, consumes its own paradoxes, and in doing so transforms them into a new, more elegant, and way more powerful understanding. That is the engine of innovation.
So you might be thinking, okay, this ancient snake symbol is cool and all, but what does it have to do with today's world? Well, a lot, actually. The framework proposes this fascinating new partnership between our human minds and artificial intelligence.
And this isn't about a person just using AI like a fancy calculator. It's about a true symbiosis, a real collaborative dance. The human and the AI become two parts of a single thinking system, each one bringing their own unique strength to the spiral. So, check out how this dance plays out. This table breaks it all down. The human starts things off, right? We provide that intuitive spark. We set the big picture goal. Then we hand it off to the AI to map out the insane complexity and model all the possible futures. Then it's our turn again. The human steps back in to stir the pot, to introduce some creative friction by picking a weird, paradoxical path. The AI then stress tests that crazy idea, and finally the human makes the breakthrough call. That's the chomp. Then the whole system learns from it, and the loop starts all over again, but better.
Okay, so this is all fascinating theory, but how can you actually use it? The good news is, the framework provides a really clear protocol for engineering your own breakthroughs for any kind of wicked problem. This is the Radiant Chomp protocol. Think of it like a recipe. First, you ingest. Just flood the system with as much data and diverse perspectives as you can. Second, you compress. You boil all that down until you find the central paradox, the core tension. Third, ignite. This is where you introduce a wild what-if idea that seems impossible. Fourth, synthesize. You let a totally new breakthrough idea emerge from that friction. And finally, ripple. You put that new insight into action so it transforms the whole system.
And this really brings us to the ultimate benefit of thinking this way. In a world that's defined by constant, unpredictable change, a static, rigid mind is fragile. It breaks. But according to this framework, the recursive mind, the one that constantly learns from itself, doesn't just survive chaos. It actually gets stronger from it. It becomes anti-fragile.
So, I'll just leave you with this thought. Think about a big challenge you're facing right now. Could be at work, could be personal, whatever. How would your approach change if you stopped trying to solve it from the outside and really truly accepted that you, your thoughts, and your actions are already a key part of the loop? What's the contradiction you need to chomp down on to find your next breakthrough?